Hello, boys and girls. Welcome to Hobo with Wood Chips. We got a lot to do today, so we're not going to waste a whole lot of time. We're going to dive right into it. Uh, I'm not going to go back and look at all the comments prior to going live. So if you've posted any questions that you need me to see or address, I'm marking this spot now. So this will be where I start to look for questions and or comments. So if you've asked anything, please just ask again. Trying to save a little time here. So this is our second or third Chips live. And today I'm going to pick up on, I dropped a video this week where I did a profile cut, and I ended up going ahead and doing a little bit of engraving and creating a image and some text in a piece of scrap cedar. And my intent was to do a epoxy pour, fill that, paint it, and then fill it, and then do the surfacing of the piece. And then I got to looking at it after I painted it, and it just took the paint, even though I sealed it prior to painting it, it was just taking the paint poorly, and it was soaking it up in places and not others. And I said, you know what? It's not worth wasting the epoxy on. So I have just the painted puck that we will do the surface on, and it should still, you render a pretty good result by having the pockets painted and then surfacing the cedar. So that's what we're going to work on today is how do you set up the operation in Millmage to do a surfacing. And then we're actually going to take this, secure it to the bed of the cubicle, and make sure that the operation is centered correctly, the CNC is in position right, and all that. And then this will be a really quick job. It'll take probably as long to show you how to do it as it will to do it. I've done a surfacing once, so this will be my second attempt. I am still learning, and what I learned, I'm sharing with you. That's the whole reason for this adventure with Hobo with Wood Chips. We'll learn together. So if anybody has any suggestions, comments, questions, don't hesitate to put them out there. Again, I am not too big for my britches, and I love to learn stuff from you. So I see a question popped up. Let's see here. Why does your channel say live 2 hours ago but upcoming? Don't know. I've got this channel live right now, and then we have Hobo with Wood laser that'll be at 9 p.m. So in 6 hours we'll be doing lasers, and tonight's topic in lasers, I touched on it last week just a little bit, and it sparked a lot of interest and apparently a little bit of controversy. So we're going to be going over how I curate art libraries in Lightburn from using AI and other softwares, and then downloading them, bringing them into Lightburn, getting them all, any kind of touch-ups or modifications that need to be done, and then creating and saving the actual library. So we're going to do a complete deep dive into how to curate and create completely original Lightburn art libraries that no one else can claim is theirs. So it will involve using AI and licensing, paid licensing sources. You don't want to go ripping off people. So that'll be tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern time, or 6 minutes shy of 6 hours from now. So don't know why it's showing upcoming. It says I have downloaded Millmage. Excellent. Terry, the schedule is supposed to be, and did I do it wrong? Did I screw it up? You remember now, I have had multiple strokes, and trying to keep these together, maybe I need to, and if I need to, no, I've already did this as Millmage, and I've already got everything scheduled, so I can't switch it now. Let me look at my calendar. Calendar. Today is 4th day. You're right, Gary. Right now, this should be Hobo with Wood, laserologist. I screwed up when I was scheduling the live streams. So my apologies. I'm going to make mistakes, and I'm going to make a lot of them. I'll make some in this stream. But trying to keep everything separate is going to cause this. Sorry. But we are going to, at this time, we're going to be talking about CNC because that's how I screwed up the schedule. So if you're interested in seeing that, please hang around. And if not, hopefully you can make it tonight at 9 for the deep dive into curating art libraries. Okay, now you done got me flustered. And it was my own, well, it wasn't stupidity, it wasn't ignorance. It was just a screw up. But it should be fun and informative. All right. Breathe. All right. So we're going to, he keeps making mistakes, so we don't know when he is AI. So we'll know he's not AI. Well, I am, I believe that I'm actually more intelligent than AI. I am not artificial, and AI is not intelligent. So I actually believe, even with my mistakes, I believe I'm more intelligent than AI. Okay. So let's talk about what we need to do with Millmage. So when you open Millmage, it is and I am and did I screw it up? We are on the Millmage channel. Y'all done got me flustered. I need to, and it's not your fault for pointing it out. I appreciate you pointing it out. But are we on the Millmage channel right now? I need to open a YouTube. Hobo with Wood Chips. Content. Live. Yeah, we're on the Hobo with Wood Chips channel right now. All right, good. Yes. Okay. I didn't want to be really screwed up and be talking about chips while I'm on the laser channel. And then, okay, here we go. All right, when you first open Millmage, it's going to prompt you for your material information. Personally, I do not like doing that. I do not care to put in that I'm working on a 100 millimeter, 12 millimeter thick disc. I want to, because whatever information you put into Millmage, when it opens up and prompts you for your information, your material, that is the working area that it's going to create. Personally, I want to see the entire work area of my machine. That may change as my abilities and knowledge of CNC work improves and adapts, and I use different machines. I don't know. But at this time, when I open Millmage, I put in my entire workbed size. Now, you are, when you look at when you look at the Cubico, I believe they advertise the workbed as being 150 millimeters by 110 millimeters rectangular shaped. But when I read the controller and Millmage reads the controller of my machine, it's 150 by 114. So when I open Millmage, those are the dimensions I'm going to put in, and that's why I'm putting those dimensions in. I will measure the thickness of this material and input that information in correctly. And all of this will make sense to you once we get down and dirty here in the software. So, all right, let's see. I'm going to switch over to a blank screen so you can see it, how it populates. So switch here and here. And actually, you know what? I'll go ahead and do this before we get too down the road. You see here is a link for the Cubico. If you find that you have interest in this, and a few of you have already expressed that you have already purchased these because they're fairly inexpensive for what they are, this is the link to go to purchase. I'm already given away one of the Cubicos, and Scott was the lucky winner on that in last week's live stream, and congratulations to Scott. He has already confirmed that he received it, and it came in intact. Yay! I've got a single machine to give away, just the base machine. It does not have the upgraded spindle or the laser. It's just the basic Cubico to give away. Initially, I was going to do that one as a general giveaway here on this channel. But after watching the response from last week's live stream and watching the numbers, how high they were, anticipating the giveaway, and then immediately after the giveaway, it was, cut in half or less, which is to be expected, I guess. But, that's not the reason that I'm doing, I want to garner new viewers, but I actually want to show some appreciation to my viewers. So I was a little bit sick about the possibility that someone that I had never seen in the stream or spoken to could have possibly won that, grand prize last week. So I was really thrilled that Scott got it. And that got me to thinking. And that's scary when this engages those gears. I am not going to do a general giveaway on this channel for the Cubico. I am going to be, I may actually give it away during one of the streams, but you're not going to have to be present to win. You're not going to have to be in the stream to win. But it will have to be, you will have to be a patron. One of my supporters is going to win the CNC. And every patron that I had and have prior to 9/30, prior to the end of the month last month, every single one of those patrons, if that's you, you will be included in the giveaway. I'm still only going to be shipping the CNC in the continental US. So how does that help my international patrons? Well, if an international patron's name comes up, say Chris or anybody, Peter or Henry, anybody that's not in the US, if that person's not already a gold patron, then I'm going to give them the equivalency in the cash value of a 2-year, I think it's 2-year gold patron, because the machine sells for around $500 or so, and at $20 a month for 12 months, a gold annual patron's about $240. So if the drawing comes up and an international patron comes up who's not already a gold patron, I will bump them to gold for free and give them the equivalency and a winnings. And then we'll have a drawing until we have a continental US winner. So it will be patrons only that win my, we have a chance at winning. Moving forward, as of 10/3, anybody that signs up as a patron, in order to be considered in the drawing, it's gold patrons only. Okay. So hopefully that makes sense to you guys, but I don't want someone signing up today for $3 as a bronze patron, and then at the end of the month or at the first of the month, they win a $500 machine after a $3 donation, and somebody's been a supporter for the last 2.5, 3 years that spent $500-600. So I'm trying to keep it as fair as possible, but show my appreciation to the patrons. So there we go. Let's see what's somebody talking about. This isn't gambling. I don't know what you're referring. Can't do what? If gambling would be if I told you everybody's pay. If you're talking to me and not with somebody else, Brandon. If I was to tell you right now to everybody who spends $20 is going to be entered into a drawing, that would be a raffle, and raffles are illegal on YouTube. They're frowned upon, and not. This is not a raffle. This is me showing appreciation and giving away an item to my patrons. So, not illegal. That's not a lottery. This is a giveaway to my patrons. And if it's a problem, then for folks, then I won't do it on YouTube. I'll just do it on my Patreon stream. But it's not gambling. It's not a lottery, and it's not a raffle. This is a giveaway to show support to my patrons. Period. If I accepted money here, it would be a raffle. So that's said and done. Let's move into Millmage. Blank screen, and we'll open up Millmage. Blank screen, Millmage. All right, here it's asking for my information. It's asking for the material information. As I said, I'm going to put in 100 and was it 150 by 240, or I can check it when I get done here. 150 by 114, and let's actually measure the thickness of this piece, including the painted surface. It was about 12 before painting, and now I'm getting about 12.3 to the lip is quite high, but it's just paint, so it doesn't matter. It's about 12, and honestly, it doesn't really matter on this, and this is what I'm still wrapping my head around. If I was going to be cutting through the material, the thickness of this material is hugely relevant. And also, if I didn't want to be cutting, too deep and take a chance on hitting the spoil board or the machine, it would be hugely relevant. But the thickness of this material at this point, I believe, is actually irrelevant, because I'm going to be securing this to the work area and then zeroing my Z, which we're going to do all that live, so people don't know what that means. They're going to say, what? Huh? So I'm going to be zeroing my Z, and that will tell the machine where the top surface of the material is at. And then I'm only going to be taking off, fraction of a millimeter at a time. And so the overall thickness of the material is irrelevant on this. So, all right. Let's see here. Go back. Oh, go back. Come on. There you go. But I'll go ahead and put in 12.3 mil. Done. And I'm going to bottom left and the 0 point at the top of my material and create new project. So there is my entire work area for my project. And I can verify those dimensions if I go to the wrench and screwdriver, and it is 150 by 114 is my working size. 150 by 114. And I can go back to File, Project Setup, and verify that's what I put in, 150 and 114. So there, you've seen how you put your material information in. You can verify your information in the wrench screwdriver. And then if you ever need to go back and check or edit or change, you can go up to File, drop down to Project Setup, and there you are. And the only time thickness materials is if you're cutting out or engraving with engraving only. Yeah. So, yeah, I didn't think, after I started thinking about it, I didn't think it was relevant here, but it asked, and we put it in there. All right. So what I have here is a 100 millimeter puck, but I need to surface this entire piece. And when you're surfacing, your bit is, I'm using a 3/4 inch surfacing bit. There you see in the machine. So it measures 3/4 inches in diameter across that bit. You do not want to start that bit. You don't want to come down. You don't want to plunge onto the surface of that bit. You want to start the spindle spinning and then bring your spinning bit across the face of your surface or material to be surfaced. So I'm going to zero the Z, put it right at the surface, then raise it, and then take it, have a pocket, which we're going to generate here, a surfacing pocket that's going to take us beyond the perimeter of the piece, come down to the proper height, and then engage the CNC, the spindle, and then move it back and forth. So, and if I'm incorrect in any of that, please, Chris or anybody else, speak up and say, hey, no, I would do it this way or not that way. Have a chat with Clack about the giveaway. He ran into problems, but if you do it on Patreon, you know whoever wins is a patron. Yeah, well, either way, whoever's going to win is going to be a patron. Yeah, but I will reach out to that. No, this is 1/8 inch spindle. This is a 1/8 inch spindle. All right. So Jack says, yep, that's correct. So what we're going to do is back over here. Wrong one, here in here. If I want to come in here and create an ellipse, shift and control to draw out a perfect circle and then tell it to be 100 millimeters. Is this step necessary? No, it's not. I'm going to put it in the center of the machine. There we go. So that disc is in the very center of the machine, the work area. Do I need this here? No, I do not. But I'm going to put it here just to have it for representation. So you see what's going on the screen and what I'm doing. On one again, I got to get them in the routine or in the right pattern. But something I've done to help me keep from chasing and again, this may not even be a necessary step. As I get more and more comfortable using the software and the machine, I may find that some of these steps are irrelevant. But as I'm learning and wrapping my head around these processes, I might be doing extra stuff just so that I know what I'm doing is going to be yielding the right results. So what I have done is, while what you see on the screen is a physical representation of the actual work area, it is not the actual size of this metal work area. This metal work area is bigger than that metal. That's not even a wasteboard because it's aluminum. It's hard metal. It's larger than the work area. So anybody who has a Cubico, and if you used this Cubico code to buy your Cubico, and you would be interested in getting my jigs and or these templates, I'll be happy to share them with you. So this is what I've got to help me with my centering. If I go to my art library, I have a template. And if I put it in the center of the screen, that is the size of the actual work bed. That, in fact, that is the actual work bed with the hold down locations. And I went a step beyond this. I've created a jig or several jigs that I can use to help position material in known locations to help and assist in situations like this. And is this necessary? Probably not. Is it helpful to this brain? Definitely. So if I go and I import, let's see here, where did I put it? Come on. Why is it not going up? Oh, I got a thinking. I confused it. It's like, wait a minute. There we go. Desktop, Lightburn, jobs, Millmage. Did I not put it in Millmage? Where, oh, where did I put it at? Well, my brain is shut down for a second, but that's okay. I don't really need it to show you this representation. I'll show you the physical pieces. So I've cut these out of acrylic, and I will bolt these on using that representation I have in the work area. And when I bolt these on, it's going to put that 100 millimeter disc exactly in the center of my work area. Now that that's exactly positioned where I want it to be, I now know how to create my pocket and set up my surfacing. Is all of that necessary? No, it's not. But it's like when you're being it, and I equate this to your ninth grade algebra teacher, and actually it's probably third grade algebra now. But when I was in school, it was ninth grade algebra. The teacher was always, you have to show your work. It doesn't matter. I knew that 2x equals 6. I knew x equals 3 without having to show anything or do any work. I just knew it, but you have to show your work. So that's what I'm kind of doing here. I'm showing my work and my processes, and knowing that I can actually get to that answer without doing that. And eventually, as I get better and more comfortable, I'll just be doing these things. Didn't know Millmage is setting the thickness to prevent you from doing 10.5 steps on a 2 millimeter. I'm not following you where you're at there. I call the metal plate the base, and we'll put a 3. Yeah, but the problem with doing a spoil board on these is you already have a very limited amount of X or Z travel. You have a limited amount of Z travel. And while I'm in my learning phase, taking away an additional 3 millimeters of clearance by having that spoil board on there, I'm just worried that I might run the bit into something because I didn't have enough Z travel to get it to go high enough. And so, like I said, it's a matter of just learning. And for surfacing, I don't need a spoil board. And when I was cutting out, I kind of putting them on risers like I did when I cut out the puck is equivalent to having it on a spoil board, because it's 3 millimeters higher. But I don't have to go constantly changing a spoil board. I can put the risers where I need to, and I never scar up a spoil board. And so just a different way of approaching it. All right. So now back over here to, actually, you know what? Let's go over here and bolt these on real quick. And I still haven't got my T-handles yet. I need to get me some T-handles. And actually, before I do that too far, I'm going to go ahead and put down a piece of tape. And I'm using blue painter's tape because I'm not going to use when you're doing surfacing, you can't use top clamps. So you have to secure it from the bottom. And that's why I did not have these on already, because I needed to put the tape on. And I failed to do that because I'm a dummy. Okay, so now that tape is down and my template is in place. And so now that's going to sit right in there to be centered up. And is it a tight snug fit? Nope. Is it close enough to where I don't have to worry about guessing at the placement of it? Yep. All right. No, it's not double-sided, Peter. That is just regular blue painter's tape. I will be applying the same blue painter's tape to the back of this, and then using CA glue to glue the two tapes together. And I was a little bit concerned about how well that works, but it works really well. And I'm going to go ahead and do that right now. That way, while I'm talking and explaining how I set up these pockets, the glue can be setting up. Doesn't take long, but I'm out of activator. So we'll give it a few minutes to cure up. And then we won't have to worry about it flying across the room like a Frisbee, I hope. So this is a very scientific application process. I am going to trim up my edges just to keep it nice and somewhat neat, and keep it out of the way of everything else. And I'm curious about, I went and bought the epoxy and was ready to do a clear epoxy feel. I have some tabletop epoxy here, but when I got it out to use it, it had already gone bad. I honestly didn't know that epoxy has a shelf life once you open it. And it does. So I've got tape on the backside. I'm going to take and put a little bit of CA glue on the surface here and glue these two together. If I can get my CA glue to come out. Of course, I always have to cut the top off because I hate those little bitty bottles of CA glue, but I know the big bottles you get, they always glue themselves shut every time you go to use them. You got a new hole in it again. All right. And that's a lot. I'm going to spin this around and get it good and secure. I was afraid that twisting twisted my tape. That's why I picked it back up, but I'm good. All right. So I'll let that cure. And we will come back over here now and open back up Millmage. We've got our physical piece on the machine. We have a physical representation of that on Millmage. But now we need to create a pocket in Millmage for the surfacing part. Because right now, it's just a circle on there. And unlike Lightburn, the images you put in Millmage, like the circles, squares, any shapes, even text, anything you put on there, it's nothing unless you have assigned it to an operation. Let's see here. So if this is the right screen, there we go. If this is the area that I need to resurface, then I need to have a rectangular pocket, or it can be a circle. I could do an offset of that, but I'm just going to do a rectangular pocket. Actually, you know what? No, I won't. I will do a circular to minimize my movements, wasted movements. Let's see if I can, if not circular. No, I take that back. Gummit. Got to get these in the right routine. Let me do that now. There we go. All right. I am going to do a rectangular pocket, but then I'm going to put radiuses on them to help minimize my excessive travel. You got to have excessive travel. Your bit needs to come completely off or past the edge of your material. And to know what that is, I'm going to use this 100 millimeter template that's on here, do a 3/4 inch offset of it. So I know that that's 3/4 inch pass. In fact, I'll do a full inch. I'll do a 1 inch offset of it. I'm not going to have a full inch top and bottom, but side to side, since that's actually what we're moving is across the X, I will. So this will make sense. So light or Millmage and swap. All right, so I'm going to do a rectangle. I'm going to come here. Got to get center. There we go. I'm going to come in here to the center right there, and I'm going to draw out. Holding control, I'm drawing out from the center, drawing a rectangle. I said I was going to do an offset, but I changed it because the work area, the shape, I knew I didn't have a full inch here. But if I come out an inch past this, if that's 100, then I want to do 150. Well, going to be about 150, almost the entire work area. So let's unlock the aspect ratio. We'll tell it 140. Now, if I take and I just want to look and see, did I leave enough, or is that going to be enough room? My bit is 3/4 of an inch, or 3/4 of an inch, or 19.05 millimeter, and I didn't have my aspect ratio locked. So unlock it again, 19.05. There we go. So there's the size of my bit. So I can now come over here and just check. There it is, butted up against the side of that when I'm completely. So that is off of the material. That's far enough. So that'll work. All right. So if that's the pocket, I'm going to put some radiuses on this because all this up here is excessive travel. I don't need this to travel that far. So if I hold my control button and get my radiuses, I can bring that down. But I want to make sure that I'm staying at least 3/4 of an inch along clear of the side there. And to make double sure of that, let's just do an offset outward of 19.05. We'll just say 20 mil. And say, okay. So there is the size of my bit. And as I'm moving on my X and Y, or on my X, I should be good with that size. Let's see here. I'm looking at the comments before at this point, because I need to know if I'm making any goofs. All right, no, good. Got that. Does the tool setting sit above the base plate? Does the tool setting the tool is above the base? Yes. I don't quite follow your question there. And we're going to, but as far as how far that we're getting ready to zero the Z, is what they call it. We have to tell the machine when the bit comes into contact with the wood. And that's going to change with every piece of material you put in there, and every time you change your bit, because the bit can be a millimeter or two different in position when you put it in spindle, if that's what you're talking about, Peter. No, there we go. I'm talking about the tool setting for setting tool length is in the right back corner. Oh, that I have still yet. That is the probe you're talking about. When you probe to find your, I've still yet to fully understand the importance of probing, because you got to zero the bit anyway, even unless you didn't. And that's what I haven't tested yet. And I will test it. But even then, I don't know that I would fully trust it. It is possible that it might be smart enough, but you can't zero the surfacing bit. You can't probe, I should say. You can't probe a surfacing bit because the little hole is only about 8 millimeters and this thing's 3/4 of an inch. But when you're using a little 1/8 inch or 1/4 inch bit, if you send it out and probe it, then the machine knows the tool length and you've entered the material thickness, then maybe, just maybe, there's some math going on in the back that it now knows what the zero is or supposed to be. Haven't tested that yet. That's something I want to do. I just haven't had time to test it. But at this point, because I don't know if that does that or how accurate it is, I don't know that I would trust it if it does do it. Because you're going to need to zero that. Because once you put that bit in, like I said, it can change every time. But that's why when you probe it, it doesn't matter. You're taking that out of the equation. But you can't probe the surfacing tool, at least not with this machine. You can with others if you've got a base probe or something. For absolute security, assurance, and knowing everything's right, what you're going to ready to see in a minute is when I'll bring it down and zero that Z, tell the machine exactly where contact happens, and then I'm going to do my surfacing. I'm actually only going to do a fraction of a millimeter and see if I can get it, because my design has some fragile pieces in it. So I'm hoping beyond hope that taking off just a fraction of the surface, it will maintain the integrity of this image. But I'm using cheap cedar, so the outcome is not guaranteed to be. That's why I didn't bother. It would have actually been a stronger final piece had I done the epoxy pour. That would have strengthened the weak areas. But this is still just a piece of junk. And that when I had to go buy new epoxy, it was $35 for just a little bottle. So I'm like, I'm not wasting that. And let's see here. Yeah, I just don't have a pen. And at this point, it wouldn't be a pen, it'd be a nail. It's probably if the tool changer, this one does not have a tool changer on it. And it never was. It doesn't have it as an option. Oops, sorry, I didn't mean that. And I would, the next investment, if I make any real investments in a CNC, I've got this one and I've got another X-Carve in the other room. But if I get a really nice CNC and was going to get into really having some fun and adventures and trying to make money with a CNC, I would like it if there was a hobbyist slash commercial CNC that had an automatic tool changer on it, because that would make life so simple. And that half the aggravation of CNCing is all the bit setup. That's a large part of the aggravating part of this. That is if you want to zero the Z to the bed and not the material surface. Okay. But you have entered the material thickness correctly. But you have to enter, yeah, right. Yeah. And I want to do top. These things may change. My habits may change as I learn and go. But here we go. Back over to Millmage. So this inner one is my disc. This is the perimeter that I need to be able to go outside my X to have clearance to make sure I'm traveling far enough for my surfacing pass, and I feel good with that. So I can get rid of that. And it actually was irrelevant. This is the only thing that's relevant right now. This is the pocket that I need to create my surfacing operation in. So if I go over to my operation menu in Millmage, I need to create a new operation. And you have a bunch of possibilities: pockets, rest pockets, profiles, chamfer profiles, dog bone slots, drills. But all the way down here at the bottom is your surfacing pocket. And honestly, I don't know why this is different than this, because I feel like if I program it and set it up correctly, I can achieve the same outcome with this as I do this. So I don't know. And I've learned this week that the documentation for Millmage is further behind than the actual software, because I've gone to the documentation to look for help, and the help that they presented was no help. And when I contacted them about it, they're like, yeah, a lot of those are just place fillers. None of it's really accurate information. They're still developing the manual. So not any help. Chris says ATCs can be problematic if you enter the wrong tool number or forget to change bits. Yeah, anything can have their own headaches and problems. And especially when you're working on 7 out of 8 cylinders, you can always have problems. So let's see here. Pocket goes around. The surface goes. Well, you can change in Millmage anyway. This may not be true for every software. So Jer is saying that a pocket goes around the surface, or goes around, and surface goes back and forth. Well, in Millmage, you can tell it to do an offset or what is it, raster or vector. You'll see here or maybe you don't have that option to tell that in surfacing. It just does it. In fact, we can go look. So switch, turn Jer off. So if we go to new operation, and let's just look at the pocket. So here you have the option to tell it you want to do the offset where it goes round and around, or you can tell it to do raster, which will go back and forth. But the raster does have a cleanup pass. And let's cancel that and go to new operation and go to surfacing. Same thing. For what? And that doesn't make any sense to me. You've got offset. See, these look identical, offset and raster, and they both have cleanup passes. And maybe this is something that's still in development, but I can't imagine why you would need 2 different operation titles, because you can program correctly, they're going to do the same outcome. But I'm going to use the surfacing pocket that they have selected here or set up and say, now I need to select my tool. What tool am I going to use? Well, in my surfacing folder, I've only got one, and that's this one. Now, this is the biggest thing that you're going to learn and struggle with your Millmage setup, is setting up your tools. Because your bits, your end mills, your engraving machinery has different feed rates. How fast can it go? Different plunge rates. How deep can it go? How fast it can plunge? How far it can plunge? And all of those factors vary on the speed of the spindle. And just like with our lasers, where you have to test materials, you can have a kind of a base setting, but different materials are going to require tweaking. So if you're going to get into a much denser wood, then you're probably going to have to slow it down. You know, it's not a snap. Here you go. The one size fits all. But your tool manufacturers, and especially IDC Woodcraft, is really good about supplying the specifications for that bit down to your RPM for your spindle. And this is something I've learned, over the past, when I first got the X-Carb, it's got a DeWalt router on it. It doesn't have a spindle. So the DeWalt router comes on and it's on. It is spinning at whatever it's spinning at. With the spindle, you can vary your speed. You can speed it up and slow it down up to your maximum spindle speed. And I've got a maximum spindle speed here of 20,000. The stock spindle on the Cubico is only 10,000. I went with the upgrade. But even with that, there are bits that IDC has that their specs show to be at 27,000 RPMs. Well, I can't go that high. And if you've only got the 10,000 RPM spindle, you can't get nearly that high. So I did a video on setting up tools in Millmage. And then what you have to do is take and figure, the percentage. Are you spinning only at half the speed? Well, then, you need to cut your feeds and speeds and plunge all by half to be safe. And Chris pops up and says, I think surfacing was left over from early testing and they left it at this stage to make it easier to find for beginners. Yeah. And that's why I say I recognize that we are still in the pre-testing, and I'm kind of getting ahead of the game of over most folks, because a lot of the things that I'm seeing and learning, they're going to change as they have their final release. But I've been waiting on Millmage now for 2 years. And so I've been, pardon the pun, I've been chomping at the bit, waiting to do this. I've been eagerly anticipating this software. So let's get back over here. I have set up my surfacing bit whenever I brought it into my library, and I've already applied all of the required documents, the feeds and speed rates and all that. It's all in here. So once I've selected the bit, all I have to do is tell it, okay. Now that brings the bit in and it applies the information that it can. But then I've got these areas over here with the red X's. That's where it's asking for information. My start depth will be 0, which is going to be my 0Z. What is my final depth? Well, I'm going to do a final depth of only, let's start it at just even 1/10 of a millimeter. I'm going to go, because and I wouldn't normally do 1/10. I'd probably do, maybe a 0.5 millimeter or a millimeter, because typically you're going to surface your material before you even do the job, unless I'm going to do something like this. I'm probably not going to surface a piece of material twice, or I surface it, then do my engraving, unless it's an inlay, maybe, I don't know. But if I'm going to do paint field and epoxy field, I'm probably not going to waste my time with an initial surface. I'll just put in a really, and I did. I went deep here. I went deeper than I should have, or for a paint field. I went deep enough for an epoxy field. I think I went about 3 millimeters deep on the actual engraving. That way I've got plenty of material to remove and still have my image and my text. And that's something else you have to think about when you're doing the initial engraving. But there are pieces of this artwork that are going to be really, really fragile. And I'm afraid if I go in there and tell it take off a millimeter, of course, I got plenty of room to do a full millimeter of removal. I'm afraid it's just going to break everything off. Not everything, but a large part of it. So I'm going to be moving in smaller increments than you would need to, but only trying to save some of the detail. And that's why I'm doing what I'm doing, or why I'm going as slow as I'm going. So I'm only going to do it. We'll do it to 0.2 of a millimeter. Now, when I put in 0.2 of a millimeter, both of those X's went away because my depth per pass for this particular bit is 1.27 millimeters. But I only need to go 0.2 of a millimeter. And since this is already preset and it's not exceeding that, it just done, gone away. Now, if I had to come in here and let's say I want to go my final depth of 4 millimeters, that doesn't change. It's still one, but what it's doing now is it's calculated how many passes is it going to take to get from 0 to 4, moving in only 1.27 millimeters at a time. Now, I was looking for absolute confirmation of this in the documentation, but can't find it. But the way I understand this should work is I'm starting at 0 and I told it to go to 4. It can move at 1.27 millimeters per plunge. So it's going to move from 0 to 1.27, then it'll move to 2.5 or 2.54, whatever. We'll use 2.5. Then it's going to go to 3.7. Well, then it's only going to need, a quarter of a millimeter or so. So that last pass should just barely be enough to go and equal a total of 4. If it calculates that, hey, it's going to need 4 passes to do it, then it shouldn't be doing 4 passes at 127 millimeters. I've set my final depth at 4 millimeters. So regardless what the depth per pass is, the final depth should be 4 millimeters. Is that right, Chris? Is that the way it should work? And I would surface first to avoid breaking the bits. Well, and I went into this. If you watched this week's video, I went into it back assward because initially I was only going to create a pocket showing how to create the operation to do a profile cut, and that's it. But then I was surprised that it worked. Honestly, I was like, "Hey, you got it right, dummy." And I was like, okay, well, what am I going to do with this? And I said, all right, might as well go ahead and do something else. And I said, I'll do that and generate a piece that I can have this stream surfacing. All right, so done. Back over here. So I'm only going to do a quarter mil, not a half, a quarter. And my ramp really doesn't matter here because I'm lowering it off of the, and that's another thing. This is something that I'm sure it's going to change as Millmage evolves, because the surfacing bit, a surfacing pocket or a surfacing operation, you're not plunging into the material because you're going to be lowering your bit to the material height you want to be surfacing at. So that right there is actually kind of irrelevant from the way I understand how this works. All right, your step over is how far over as it completes a pass on the X and it steps up the Y, the step over, how far is it going to step over in relation to the diameter of the surfacing bit? So this is a 3/4 inch surfacing bit. This is set up to step over, this is another problem with Millmage, and I'm sure they will address this as it evolves. Right now, the maximum step over percentage on Millmage is 50%, and I should be able to do at least 60 or 70% on surfacing. But I've got this at maximum at 50%. So on a 3/4 inch bit, it's going to step up half of that, or a little around 3/8 or so, and then go to the next pass and step up and step over, next. but 50% is its maximum. All right, I'm going to do the raster like that. Outline pass will be after. And no outline. We're going to turn outline off. There we go. Outline pass. No outline before or after. But I can imagine, because I'm going, the surfacing pocket exceeds the actual piece. And if I did an outline pass after, it's going to go around that outer pocket, which it isn't going to come into contact with practically anything. So for surfacing with this piece and this application, I don't see any point in doing a clearing, or no, an outline pass, or, yeah, after the fact. Direction of cut is also, I don't know if you're going to have a difference. I'm going to, with a surfacing bit, but I'm going to do conventional raster angle 0. That right there is just going to have it scanning, at a 0 degree angle. If I changed it, what are my options? Can I just do 0 to 90? No, you can put in your actual. So if you wanted to, you could have it. And actually, I could see where this might be beneficial. If you're doing a clearing pattern, you might, depending on the material you're using, you might want to do the clearing, have the bit move with the grain instead of across the grain. Or so had I paid attention to what angle the grain was at, if I wanted to move the surfacing bit with the grain of the material, I could change the angle here and have that happen. Or you pay attention when you're putting your material in. Well, in this one I could, because it's a round puck, I could have oriented it so that the grain was perfectly at 0 or at 90. But I didn't pay attention. And because it is circular, you could put it anyway, and then you could have had it scan or do the surfacing passing at any angle. I could see that could possibly be beneficial. But I'm leaving that at 0, and I'm going to say okay. So I've set up my operation, right? We're ready to go, right? No, you've created the outline, the restricted area for the work. And this, I just noticed this by looking at this. This may actually be too big of a pocket. I may need to resize it a little bit, because I'm all the way to the edge of my work area. My rectangle here, I just noticed, is a full 114 high, and that may trigger the limit switches. So I'm actually going to hold the control button and drag that down and get it away from the limit switches, because that will work. That'll work. And hopefully that won't trigger my limit switches. All right. But I'm not done yet. Even though I've created the pattern, the pocket, I've told it what bit, I've still got to set the bit up. I've got to 0 the bit. And then I've also got to actually tell, I've got the pocket. I've got the pocket on the software, and I've got the operation in the menu, but I haven't told the software what needs to go in that operation. So with that selected and this selected, assign my shapes, and that's going to assign that pocket. You see how it turned a different type of ants, but now that pocket is assigned to this operation. And when I look at the preview, you can see the pass that it's going to make. If I make it larger, there's the total number of passes it's going to make as it goes around and resurfaces that area. There we go. So it's going to come in and surface back until I've got, and this is your outcome. You don't see anything. Well, actually you do. But I think you can see here on the board. Oh, you know why? Because I put in here the actual work area. That board that you're looking at is the full 150 by 114, even though that's not what we've got a 100mm circle in the middle of that. So that's showing you the untouched area of the work board or the work area, which is irrelevant for what we're doing. So that looks good. So now that's all set up. So the next thing I need to do is I need to go over and zero the Z. Zero the Z. I've mounted that surfacing bit, but now I need to let Millmage know when that bit comes into contact with the material. To do that, it's going to require using the move functions in Millmage and a physical test over on the machine itself. And there's probably several ways to zero the Z, but I'm going to use the old trick of using a piece of paper to know when it comes into contact, and you'll see. But I'm first going to show you in Millmage the move menu. So this is the operations menu. Now I need to go to the move tab, and here I've got all the controls to move on the X and Y, and then over here is to control the Z up and down with the height of the spindle. So why did I go to the trouble of putting this in the very center of the work area? Well, I know where that piece of wood is at, and I can actually tell my spindle, go to the center. And I know the spindle is going to be pretty much right over the top of that. I don't have to, like before when I was showing you how you can use the center finder in Millmage to center up and find perfect location and all that. And I already know where it's at because I placed it there thanks to my templates, and it's glued down, and that's where it's at. So I can just tell the spindle, go here. And what would be nice is I've got the pin location here in the move tab. You've got your jog controls. Then you've got another sub menu up here where you can put in your coordinates and tell it to go there. And the override tab, this is, and I have not needed or used it yet, but this is what pops up, I think, whenever you hit the start button. And if you needed to change your speeds or anything like that, you can actually, I believe this is where you can make adjustments in real time. So split screen, Terry? No. I don't think it's going to be necessary. I'm going to show you how the controls work in Millmage, and then I'm going to be showing you full screen on the Cubico how I'm lowering it down, because I'm only going to be hitting one button in Millmage, the low drop, or lower the Z, and until it gets where I want it to, then I'll stop my movement. But I think it'll be self-explanatory. So if I come back over here to my position, my pin location, and I want it to go to this point right here, and somebody's knocking at my door and don't know who or why. So my apologies. Who are you? Okay. Where did you go from? Oh boy, I have a guest. All right. Let's see. All right. Back to Millmage. So I've got an X right here. That's the actual center of my material. And if I were to select that, that tells me that 80 and 60 is the center position of my work area, 80 and 60. So now that I know that, I can just come over here and tell it I want it to go to 80 and 60 is the position that I want to move it in, 80 and 60. And then I'm going to click on go to right here. All right. Now I've got the bit plenty high enough, so it's not going to be coming in contact with anything. But now when I click on go to, that's not the right spot. So let me home the Cubico and see if that was my issue, because I have not homed it. In fact, I powered everything off. I rebooted the entire all the computers and everything, but I did not rehome the machine after powering everything back up. So that might be my hiccup here. So if I go back over here, so you see this, and I'm just going to hit the home position. Go home, go home, go home. That'll raise it up, and then it'll bring it down here. I'm putting it in the center of the piece to do my zeroing. Radu. All right, so that's centered up. So now if I go back to my move tab, and position is still there. 8060 is still there. All I got to do is to click on go to, and that, if that's all the problem was not having it reset, that should put the spindle right in the center of the Punisher's skull. It's amazing how things do what they're supposed to when you do what you're supposed to. So, hey, buddy, I'm live to the rest of the world. You want to come and say hey? Yeah. Yeah. Come on. Okay, look, right here's the camera. Oh. Yeah. Say hey, everybody. Hey, everybody. What's your name? What's your name? No, what's your name? My name is Weston. Weston. How old are you, Weston? Good. How old? Huh? How old are you? 4. 4. Is that many? Yeah. Or is it that many? 4. Okay. All right. Go over yonder. I got to go back to work. Okay. So now that I've reset the machine and it now knows its proper positioning, I've got all the coordinates right. I've got it zeroed over the center of the workpiece. Now I can zero it to the surface of the material. So to do that, with the spindle over the center of the material, I can go back to my jog feature and begin to lower the spindle until I get close to the surface, and then I'll start using a piece of paper to get it exact. So I'm going to come back over here, and initially I'll drop it 10 millimeters. One more time. And now I'm close enough that I can start moving it in 1 millimeter increments. And that's close enough that I'm going to, that's not me. I'm going to get up, go over there and get a piece of paper and slide the paper underneath between the top surface and the bit. And I'm going to start lowering the bit down in 1/10 of a millimeter increments. And that is done by just changing your increments over here. So I'm going to move it 1/10 of a millimeter and drop it down until the paper can no longer freely move underneath that bit. That'll be the zero surface. The bit's making the contact with the material. So we're going to go, I'll send you to the CNC. I've got, and this is where, this is the handiest dandiest investment I've made in Lightburn since I've been doing lasering. is a wireless Bluetooth trackball mouse, because I can take this over to my laser and still, as long as I can see my screen, I can control everything. Well, here I'm going to carry this with me over to the CNC and be able to control everything very easily and remotely. So switch you over here. I position the mouse on the down arrow for the Z axis. I'm going to take a piece of paper. Oh, get it underneath there. Like so. And see, that moves back and forth. And as long as that can move, I know I'm not at Z or at 0. So I'm going to lower 1/10 of a millimeter, still moving. And I'm just going to keep clicking while I'm moving this back and forth. Starting to feel a little bit of a drag right there, but I'm still able to move it. Still able to move it. There, it's grabbed it. So there, I'm at 0Z. So I need to come back over here to Millmage, and I'm going to come up here to this top button just underneath my logo, and it says 0 workspace. 0 workspace. And I'm going to click on that. And you can just barely see it because of my logo, but right underneath there it says Z is 0. Z0. So that now has the bit right at the surface of the material with a little bit of pressure on it. And we're going to do our first pass at 1/4 millimeter and see how much of that painted area we take off. And I'm not worried really about, and I'm expecting bits of it to break off because it being, this real cheap cedar. And it's going to be the little pieces in the skull that break away. And I ain't worried about that. We're still going to have an interesting result afterwards. Just some of the detail might be missing. The text is going to be good, and the skull overall is going to be good. Just some of the fractured area, I forget that word. Anyway, some of the detail will be missing, but we have everything set. But now here is the first mistake even some of the most advanced CNCers make, and they forget to do. I have set the 0 on my Z. My spindle is setting on the material. Before I do anything, I need to lift that spindle, get it off of the surface. Because if you're, depending on the size of your bit you're using, if this one, I wouldn't break anything because it's so big. I'd damage my piece. But if I was using the 1/16 of an inch bit that I just zeroed the Z on and it had contact with the surface and I hit the move button, there's a chance it might have enough pressure on it to snap and break the bit. So after zeroing the Z, you've clicked 0 workspace, lift your bit. So if I go back over there, I need to get that up, and I'll use a 10 millimeter increment and move it up 10 millimeters. And now I can clear my paper out the way, and that should be good to go and ready to run a surfacing bit. All right. And before I go any further, I just now seen, I talked about that. That's why I put it in 0 so I can get it in center machine. Can you mask the top before engraving so you can do your painting or epoxy fill like you do in lasering? Possibly. But you're going to, the problem you have there is depending, there's 2 different types of, you have I forget what they call it now in the operation. You can do a climb or a conventional pass. A climb is where you're going, I think, against the direction of the spindle speed. And it can actually the material can want to climb up the bit. A conventional does the opposite. One can cause more tear out than the other. And I think it's the climb is what gives you the cleanest possible, but you have to have the right direction and the right type of bit. You want to make sure, and there's so much to learn with this stuff, Sharon, and like I said, I'm still learning. A downward cutting bit, cutting down, and also doing I think it's right. I think I'm saying this right. A downward cutting bit with a climb rotation will give you your cleanest potential edge. But if you don't have all those things just right, and you've done all this preparing and pre-masking, and end up getting either the wrong bit or you're doing the wrong, and you end up with tear out, well, it's going to tear out around the edge of your material and or your masking. So doing this here, and plus it's less, well, I don't know if it's less work, but it's going to have, I think ultimately it's going to have your best possible outcome by doing a surfacing after painted. But I don't know. You know why? Because I don't know what I'm doing. You can move job control tab to tab by itself. Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. So it doesn't disappear when. Oh, no, that's good, Dwight. You know what? Ding, 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 ding. Dwight gets the cardboard cookie today. That is genius. If anybody, and I'm guessing, Dwight, you might have seen the comments I made earlier. When you hit the start button, and actually, it's not the start button. The job, not the move, but the job control. Yeah, and I'll show you that. When you hit the start button, in case I needed to hit stop really, really quick, Millmage takes that menu away and shows you a different, I think it shows you that override screen. But his suggestion is take that menu, make it separate like we have in Lightburn. Now it's separate. It ain't going nowhere. I can hit stop instead of having each way trying to find the emergency stop button, because the emergency stop button on this thing is smaller than any one of these digits, and it's a recess button. I almost need a pen or a pencil to get in there to hit it. So I want to be able to click on stop. Thank you, Dwight. So what he's talking about is my job control right here. Once I hit start, this menu goes away and I don't have the option of just readily clicking on stop. So I'll drag it off and park it. Can I get it? There we go. Oh, right there. There we go. So now that's not going to go anywhere. It's parked. It's done. Just had a thought, 0Z at a high point rather than at a low for inlay surface for inlay surfacing. And Jeff says it's upcut and downcut. Yeah, but I wasn't talking about the actual bits. The upcut and downcut, I think I got that right. But in the operations tab, here, cut direction. You can have conventional or climb. And depending on what bit you're using and what combination of bit and direction of rotation or cut direction, you can get different quality of results. And it's my understanding that if you do a climb cut direction with a downward cutting bit, you get the cleanest perimeter cut. Don't hold me to the fire on that one, but I think that's how I recall the understanding. And I did set it to a flat surface. I didn't do it to the recessed inlay area. I said it may look like that on the painted piece here, but it's flat all the way across there. I didn't go down into the recessed area. So I've seen them mask on another channel. Yeah, and like I said, I'm sure there's Yahoo. You always have other options. There's always another way. You which ones, and that's why you have never ever heard me say this is the way to do something. I'm not that guy. That's that other guy. I don't preach this is the right way to do something. If you get to the end result that you're looking for, and so what if it took you 2 extra steps to get there? If you're not on the clock and working for somebody else, do it the way it works for you. And plus, this whole stream right now, the whole concept for doing this surfacing, the way that I did this, it was just to create the content of how to create and set up the surfacing pocket. I don't know that this would be the way that I would do it, but I wanted to do a stream showing you how to create the surface pocket, what it does, what to look for, how to watch it, and then have an interesting result to show you other than just a blank piece. Because I could have taken this piece of material, put it on the machine, and serviced it, and then you got this, and then look at the results, and you're like, wait a minute, I can't tell no difference. It looks exactly the same before and after. So this was just a way to make the surfacing interesting. That's all. Welcome. So we've got it zeroed. We've zeroed the Z. We've got the material secured to the table. We hope. I still cringe with that CA glue, but it has worked surprisingly well so far. But, and this is the big but, this is the first time I've done it with cedar. And the cedar may or may not do that well with the painter's tape. I don't know. We're getting ready to find out. All right. So we've zeroed the Z. In fact, let's use the checklist for what it's there for. So I've got everything set up. I'm ready to go. I'm going to go over here and I'm going to hit start. But because and this is an option in Millmage, and I set it up and turned it on. This is a confirmation checklist. It says, have you set the project dimensions? Yes. Have you set your origins? Yes. You created the operations? Yes. Selected the correct end mill? Yes, I have. And these are prompts that I created. I edited this. These are things that I want to make sure that I know that I'm supposed to do, and I've done them. Set your 0 point for the Z axis. Yes, I did. Ooh, I did not frame the job. See? And that's why I have a checklist. So I want to say, no, I don't want to start my job yet. And now what I'm going to do, and this is why you need to do this. I'm now going to tell it to frame the job. And I was concerned earlier that I had that operation pocket right up to the limit of the machine's capabilities. And had I tried to do that, it would have tried to frame and hit the limit switches and stopped. I've changed the size of that pocket. So now I can hit frame and see if it's still going to have a clearance problem, or make sure I'm going to get the full encompassing of that piece. So switch, and I'm just going to tell it to frame the job, and I'm going to do a rubber band frame. I've got the bit high enough off the material so I can frame. And see there, just what I was afraid of. Even though I changed the size of that pocket, I've hit a hard limit switch. So I need to make my pocket smaller yet and try again. So I need to go back over here. And I didn't test that the first time. I just seen it was right up against the edge of the material. So this will be interesting. Am I able to surface that 100 mm disc on this work table? So switch back over here. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back in here, grab that pocket, and I'll reduce it to just shy of the edge of the material. I don't want to take it all the way to the edge. And now, if I go back over here, I've hit the hard limit switch. Let's see if I can frame it without sending it to home to reset it. We'll see here. So yes, and yes, that worked. You have to make a full diameter. You have to make it. No, my problem, my hard limit was I was running out of travel on the Y. The X is fine. And you need to, and because I'm doing a surfacing pass on the X, and you want your surfacing bit to go completely past your material, I do not want to reduce the size of my X. If I were to reduce the size of my X over here, then I'm not going to have that bit going clean past the perimeter of my piece. Only reducing the Y kept me within my limits, and I'm still getting complete pass over the entire perimeter, and it should come out the way I want. As long as the cedar stays adhered to the painter's tape, the tape's going to stay glued to the CA glue. I ain't worried about that failing. I'm worried about the tape letting go on the cedar. But we'll know here in about 2 seconds. So I'm not going to bother putting the shield on because I am going to use the dust shoe, which means I got to pick this thing up and put the dust shoe on it. Because this is going to make a lot of mess. And I want you guys to see the process. And if I put the gauge on there, it's going to hide a lot of it. So we're gonna cross our fingers that this thing don't go boom and make me lose another pair of pants and stain another chair. So let me lift this thing up. Turn Peter off here. I need to lift it up and put the dust shoe on. So I need to go to the move tab and I need to lift that and grab the dust shoe. Oh, hello. And this just slides on here. And magnets hold it in place. There we go. So that's as secure as it gets. Now I'm ready to hit the start button and make sure nothing blows up. Don says, do not use the dust shoe. Then you come clean up over here after I'm done. It'll still, yeah, I want to try and use the dust shoe. Let's see here. All right, done. Go back here. So now that I've got that lifted, got my dust shoe on, and I probably should maybe add that to my checklist. Is your dust shoe on? So if I hit start, I get my confirmation again. Done. I've framed my job, so start is the next thing. So I'm going to change the camera. So you're seeing that. And I will change the framing just a little bit so you can get all of the piece in here. There we go. And then I've already got the dust shoe hooked up. The vacuum's on. I'm going to turn the vacuum on and then hit the start button. So you will melt it. I don't know what you're referring to there, Don. I've done that already. So let's see here. Vacuum. All right. Okay, so that worked out well. And as I'd stated earlier, I went really, really shallow because I was worried about the distressed areas of the skull breaking off, and that worked out pretty good. We've got a little bit of natural wood exposed, but we got plenty of travel that we got up to 3 millimeters that I can go deep and not be a problem and lose everything. But that worked. That was a good test. Everything's still secure. Didn't lose anything. None of the detail broke off. And now this also gives me a chance to show you. Now I need to do additional passes. How do I do that without re-zeroing the Z? Well, let's get over here to Millmage. So if I go back to my operation, I told it to start at 0, and it has a final depth of 0.2. So right now, my 0 is 0.2 less than where I was a minute ago. Well, I need to do, I'm going to do a total of a half mil. Actually, you know what? I'll do 6/10 of a mil. All right. So if I'm going to do 6/10 of a millimeter additional, I need to make my final depth 0.8. That'll take it additional 6/10 of a millimeter. But I'm going to do it in 2 passes. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to add an additional 6/10 to my final depth. So it'll be a 0.8 is my total. And my depth per pass, I'm going to tell it to do 0.3. All right. So I've already gone 2. So that's why my total depth is a total of 8. So I'm only doing an additional 6/10 of an inch, and I'm going to do it in 2 passes at 3/10 of a millimeter each. So done. Let's see. Step over needs to be based on cutting area on surface bit. It's not equal to bit diameter. The step over needs to be based on the cutting area of the surface. Well, and okay, that I've got the cutting area set up according. Blah, blah, blah. I've set the bit up according to IDC specs for this surfacing bit. Surfacing operation does not have a stock to leave option. Yeah, I'm not leaving any. And I don't know if you're addressing anything to me because I haven't told it to leave any stock. And I've seen that and I haven't messed with it yet because that was part of the questions that I sent. I was looking up in the Millmage documentation and didn't make any sense whatsoever. And it had this option. It prompted me. Did you find your answer? Did you have any help? And I sent the reply, no, it didn't. And this is why. And they responded, yeah, you're right. Because what it says is incorrect and we don't have the correct information for you. Okay. All right. So anyway, so we started at 0. We went 1/4 of a millimeter, 2/10 of a millimeter. I've just added an additional 6/10 to go 6/10 more. And I told it to do it with a depth of pass of 3/10. So this will be 2 passes. You should make your start depth to 20 now. Start depth. Yes. Thank you. Because I've zeroed the Z and my start depth. Stay there. All right. I've zeroed the Z. It knows what 0 is. And 0 is not start depth. Thank you. 0 is not start depth. So I got to come back over here and tell it. Well, now, if that's the case, I need to put my start depth as 0.2 And is that, yeah, and that should work. And yep, got it. Yep, thank you. Both Steve and Terry, you guys are on your mark today. And Don, Don, I take it you have not seen my video on what you should do before installing your dust chute. You need to go watch that video after this live stream. It's here on Hobo with Wood Chips. It's a great big video. Warning says, watch this video before installing your dust chute. You need to watch. You probably learned it the hard way. And if you haven't done the necessary adjustments, you definitely need to go watch that video. I know what you're talking about. And I lost a good pair of pants and an office chair because of it. All right. So now we've changed our start depth to 0.2. The final depth is still going to be the same. We're going to do 2 passes of 0.3 of a millimeter. So I should be able to hit start and make this happen. So I'm going to switch you back over here. Turn on the vacuum cleaner. Oh, okay. So we had some bleed with the paint. It's still not completely cleaned up, and a lot of it is not from lack of surfacing so much as it is because of the bleed. Even though I sealed it before I painted it, it's still, and that's why I said I knew that it wasn't going to be a good result. That's why I didn't waste my time and money on doing the epoxy fill. I'm curious about, yeah, I can feel it. I was wondering if it was a difference in the step over, or if I need to, I forget what they call it. This is right out of the package. I may need to, what is it? In fact, what did Jeff say? Looks like you need to trim your gantry and spindle to get the cutting surface more level. Yeah, that's what I was looking at. It looks like there's a little bit of a, and I'll have to, hey, Thomas, he's got Thomas the Train. I'll need to look into how to do that with the Cubico. because I have no idea how to trim the cubicle. But yeah, but for what I'm doing right now, learning. I'm not making trophy pieces. I'm not making stuff. My entire purpose for getting the cubicle was not for making product that I can go out and sell. It's to learn how to use Millmage, learn how to set up and do CNC, because I've got a machine in the other room to make bigger, nicer projects. This is to learn, and to learn with junk pieces like this. And I heard a lot of the detail break off on that one. And I can see now that a lot of those distressed areas in the skull have broken off. So I'm not going to worry about that now. I know that I'm 3 millimeters deep in my pocket. I've gone 0.8 of a millimeter. I will do another 0.8 to try and get past these bleed throughs and see how cleaned up it gets, and try to get the best possible result. Yeah, you shouldn't be seeing the overlapping marks, and that's because, and I guess and I didn't know I couldn't think of the word tramming. It looks like it's just not level. The surfacing bit is just at a slight angle, and I guess that's what tramming does. And like I said, I have not done that. This is straight out of the machine, out of the box, and I know you do that with bigger, nicer, advanced machines. Since I don't know how to do it, I don't know if you can do it with this machine. I'll have to research that. If you were going to change the width of the tool, would you remove the marks? I don't think this is. I think this is because I can actually feel, and you can even see it there. It's raised up. It's deeper on the back edge of that cut than it is on the leading edge. That bit is not going flat across the surface. It's got a little bit of a cant to it, or a little bit of a ramp to it. So I have to look at which it can easily be removed with a light sanding, because it's not. This is a much easier way to surface the material, get it good and clean. Then once I've got all the stains off of it and all the bleed through off of it, hit it with the sanding tool, the DA, and it's good. So I don't think it's the bit, Terry. I think it is the machine, as Jeff said. All right, so I'm going to go back over here, and operation. We're going to start at 0.8, and we're going to tell it final depth to be, in fact, we'll tell it, I don't want to do 1.7. That'll be, and then we'll do, and I'll just tell it to do 0.5 millimeter plunges or depth, and it'll do the math for me. It'll do it right. No, I don't think it's because of the CA glue. I think it's because if it was the tape and the glue, you would have possibly a constant bevel. But here, it's every pass is its own bevel, and I don't think you'd have that because of the tape and glue. I don't know. You know why I don't know? Because I don't know what I'm doing. So putting this at a final depth of 1.7, starting at a 0.8, that'll put me at a total depth of 1.5, and I've got a total depth of my pocket that I did of 3 mil. So I should still have a 1.5 millimeter pocket, still look good. And if this don't clean up all the bleed, then we know you don't want to bother doing this with cedar, because like I said, I put on 2 or 3 coats of clear lacquer before painting it to try and seal all the pores of the cedar, and I've still got a lot of bleed through. Okay, so now we need to get this off the work table. And this is the fun part. So I was worried about how well that would stick to the cedar. It did pretty well, but to get this off, well, this actually, there you go. That wasn't stuck very much at all. Uh, Normally, I let's see here, swap. Normally, I got to use a big old putty knife to get in there and pop it and pry it off. But I'm out of accelerant because that it didn't fail at the cedar, that failed with the glue. Uh, so anyway, we learned a lot today. We learned that cedar is not something you want to do any painting and pre-filling with or mess with, because even after sealing this, I pulled the tape off the back. There's lots and lots of bleed through, and it's not very, very strong. But you know, we got our. Let me focus on that. There we go. Even before painting, I sealed it, and that's 3 or almost 2 millimeters worth of cedar taken off, and you still got that. So that bled through the side of the letters into the material from the engraving. So I don't think there's any amount of resurfacing that I would do with this that would save it and still have an image on it. But it's not, this is just paint, because I did not want to waste my money. I knew that it was not going to do well, given the way that the way it was even taking the paint. I could tell it was not going to be. I knew it was bleeding into the material because I put 2 or 3 coats of clear lacquer on it to seal it, then painted it, and it still just kept sucking the paint in like a sponge. And I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm not going to bother putting the epoxy on there. And all of that sucking in from the sponge, well, there's where it was sucking it into and throughout the grains. So I wasn't trying to make a piece I can sell. I wasn't even trying to make a piece that I could go, oh, look. I'm using my scrap material. These are pieces of the plaques that I made that I'm cutting up and using to learn how to create pockets, how to create the operations, how to make the things do what I want them to do, and not waste any valuable material. Yeah, I sealed it after I engraved it. I didn't bother sealing it beforehand. After I cut it all out, I put 3 coats of lacquer on there, and it still soaked all that up. Yeah, that's possible, but these are irrelevant. I've got some hard, now that once I get the technique down, I've got some good hardwoods. I've got some maple. I've got some walnut. I've got some things that I can make nice pieces out of. But if you're like right here, what did I learn today? I learned that I have a problem with the tramming on my material. My surfacing bit is not moving across the material level. So I need to look at, is it a bit issue? Is it, and even if it's it probably couldn't be a bit issue. It's got to be the way that it's trammed is the word you used. I need to look and see if that's something that can be corrected with the Cubico. And if not, like I said, just a few minutes on the DA and that'll be smooth. But I just now noticed, to give you an idea how much paint that I tried to use on this to get this to look good, we just milled 1.5 millimeters off the surface of this. And this is going to require me to focus. But the skull, you can see, is still 1.5 millimeters deep of a pocket right there, that finger. But look at the E and the U. And up here, punishment. Punishment has no depth to it. Those were engraved at the same depths. That's how much paint is in this to try and get that to look good. That's almost completely filled, not epoxy, that's almost filled with paint to the surface when it should look like the skull because it was all done at the same time. So that part of punishment was sealed and the paint couldn't seep in, whereas other parts of it did soak it in. But anyway, so we've learned some stuff today. We've learned about not going past your limits, hitting that hard limit switch with your operation, stopping your machine before you get going. That's the importance of framing. Before you send the job, before you start the job, hit the frame button and frame it to make sure you're going to have the travel that you're wanting to have. Don't waste time and materials on a cheap piece of wood because you'll get piss poor results. And that's what this is. This is unfinished cheap cedar. This was a picket that cost $3.70. So it's not going to give you or render a high quality result. But I've learned the technique, and that's why I'm doing all of this, is to learn. See what Chris say. Maybe a thicker paint. I have never got that much bleed. Well, this is the Rust-Oleum that I use on everything. But this, I almost hate to do this, but let's see here. This cedar, it's like a sponge. It's almost like basswood. It doesn't take anything. This stuff is extremely soft. The spindle not at 90 degrees to the table. Yeah. With this painter's tape overlapped onto the piece, would it be part? No, I'm because that's I think it was Chris or somebody else mentioned. That's not the overlapping part of it. The glue filled that whole area, and that takes care of 99% of that little bit of an overlap. I don't know if that was perfectly level. I don't know. It'll be some experimenting, and it'll be a good thing to learn about tramming. I need to go to YouTube University and learn about tramming, and is tramming a possibility on the Cubico? Are there adjustments in this machine for that? And if so, that might be something else to share. That demo kind of made me glad I can't find cedar. Check your flex of the spindle. Yeah, I don't have flex in the spindle. It is an impressive machine for what it is. It really is. And I'll be surprised if there's not a way to tram it. I don't know. I don't know if Steve's still here. Yeah, there he is. And that's what he says. Yeah, I was getting ready to see if you were still here, Steve. I have to look at mine. Hopefully there are some adjustment screws. Otherwise, it might require a healthy thin aluminum shims to tram it in the mount. Yeah, there are, and I was just looking. Look at the other side. No. I don't see anything visible that screams this is where you would make an adjustment. And again, like I said, this is not a it is a precision piece of equipment when it comes to repeatability, because when I did this initial pocket, a lot of, because like today when I did the surfacing, I didn't just go, hey, go take off 1.5 millimeters, because I could have. I didn't do that. I did it in steps, increments, because one, I was curious about how secure everything was, whether everything will stay where it needed to be. And just, so when I was doing the pockets, doing the engraving, I'm not sure how it was going to turn out. I did small increments. So this pocket, while it was 3 millimeters deep with the image and the letters, I did it in a total of, it was either 4 passes or 6 passes, just micromillimetering my way into it, just to see if I was going to get the results that I was looking for. Totally not necessary, but that also demonstrated to me that I was able to send this machine out repeatedly and get precise results with the repeated movements. So the stepper motors and the quality and the precision of the machine is there. Now I just need to look at, the tramming part of it. All right. If there are screws that mount the bracket on each side of the gantry, you can trim. I don't see an adjustable point on this. And that was the one thing that I was really, really, really good at when I was wearing a mechanic's hat. I was one of the best alignment guys in the county, probably in the state. You could bring me something that had an alignment problem on a vehicle, and I could fix it. I knew how to make adjustments, and maybe even when there were, like Steve said, there may not be an adjustment, but there might be a way you can adjust it. And if that's what it turns out to be, I can figure it out. But honestly, for what this machine is and for what I'm using it for, I don't really care. This, before I snapped this in half, it was acceptable, because what little bit that was there was easily taken care of with the DA sander, with a light sanding, and I'm done. Here, this is all about technique, and I'm curious. Steve's going to check his out and see if he sees anything. Have you done a surfacing with yours, Steve? Have you noticed any? Do you have the same issue with where it's not sitting at 90? But I'm not displeased, even if it can't be fixed, even if I couldn't shim it, even if this was the way it's going to be, period, I would still tell everybody, go over there and get you a Cubico if you want to learn how to do this. If you want to learn Millmage, I mean, for only a fraction more of what the software is going to cost you, you've got a CNC that you can start learning the software and the techniques. And then if you see that, hey, this is something you really like and enjoy, then make that investment and go get you a nice, big commercial or a real CNC. And Steve says, I have not used a bit with that large of a cutting area. Smaller bits will hide that issue. Yeah. Yeah. And like I said, this was an attempt just to show you how to set up a surfacing pocket, the surfacing operation, and we all learn a little something. Like I said, biggest thing I learned, and I can't thank you enough, was, hey, stupid, take and park that job control down here separate so that it doesn't go away when you hit the start button. I don't know. And it's obvious things like that I knew to do that. I knew you could do that. I just didn't do it. I was always like, gummit, it's gone. You're not going to go chase it down again. And all I had to do is park it somewhere different. All right. Yeah. Oh, Peter says try cutting on the y-axis next time and see what happens. I couldn't have done that with this one, though, Peter. I could not have surfaced this one on the y-axis because you need to be able to clear your material the distance or the width of your bit. And I did not have clearance to go on the y-axis because of my travel limits. I had to go on the X. But and honestly, for the most part, 99% of the time, because of these machine limitations, I'm going to have to go on the X for surfacing. All right, guys and gals, we're 2 hours over. It is, let's see here. Let me look at any questions, comments that I missed. Got that. We got that. And then what's Chris say here? If there, yeah, we got that. Please give this schedule for hang. Okay. Well, I screwed up today. I'm not going to go reschedule my schedule. So tonight will be lasers. And today is the 4th. It was supposed to have been lasers today at 3, and I screwed up. So next week, the 11th, 3 o'clock will be CNC again, and 9 will be lasers again. But then on the 18th, lasers early, CNC, then it switches. So, and here, guys, I get these emails, and I understand, I do, because that's the reason I got it in my calendar, and I've got it in my calendar, and I still screwed up today. What I don't like is the fact that the live tab is separate than the video tab on the YouTube homepage. So for giggles, I'm going to open up a window. And we'll go to YouTube, and we're going to go here and go here. And we're going to go to YouTube at Hobo with Wood. Not a at. I'm on now. Ampersand at Hobo with Wood. All right. Let's turn Terry off. If you go to the homepage for the channel and you're wondering when the live, when's the next live? It's Saturday. You know it's Saturday. Saturday's going to be a live stream. Well, are we doing the lasers today at 3, or are we doing the CNC today at 3? Well, I might not know. But I will have it scheduled. And if you go to the home page, you're on the landing page for Hobo with Wood. Click on the live tab. And when you click on the live tab, it's going to show you what's upcoming. Yeah, this right here, I don't know why that's there. That shouldn't be there. This is what's upcoming right here. That must have been a fat finger I did somewhere. But here's the upcoming. Hanging with Hobo Live, proving the process. How I really make them. Libraries. How I really make them. And I'm going to be showing you all kinds of steps. I brushed on this topic last week, but we're going to do a in-depth where I get them, how I use AI's prompts, how I generate the images I get. And I'm going to squash the comments that somebody's making that I'm stealing their libraries. What a buffoon. Let's see here. Oh, we got that. Got that. Yes, you can ask any question. We're here. Go for it. Go for it. Because just in case you can't be here tonight, go for it. No, Chris. Today is the 4th for me. Today is the 4th for me. Thanks for the show. Thanks, Steve. Look forward to the next episode. Thank you. And we'll see you tonight. But yes, Peter, you can ask away whatever question you got. Well, we'll wait for your question and then we'll wrap this up. Unless it's going to take me another half hour to answer the question. And if it does, and I'll take that half hour to answer the question. Do you know if Rolly will produce a list of their suppliers? That I don't know, Peter. Here's what I'm hoping will happen. I had 2 funerals this week. A family friend, we had to go to their father passed away, and then my last module died. I knew that my modules were, I knew 2 of them were already gone. And I go through modules because my lasers are running nonstop. I am a hobbyist, but I'm running nonstop, testing all of the designs before I put them out there on the internet. And lots of trial and lots of errors and lots of errors. And I knew that my last module was starting to show signs. And it went kaput on Monday. And I had already ordered modules, but the question was, would they come in before the Chinese holiday and the whole country shuts down for 8 days? I cannot fathom that, but I guess when the government runs the entire country, government says shut down, you shut down. So they've got a whole 8-day weekend for the entire country of China. If mine got out before the weekend, I might see mine modules today or not today, Monday or Tuesday. But if not, it's going to be after the 15th before I see my modules. I did speak with Leo briefly, and he did say that his intentions are to keep production on the replacement parts going as long as he has machines out there that are within their warranty period. So he still has machines that he's selling, and he's selling them at a discount. When you buy your machine, it's still going to have a 1-year warranty. So if he's still selling machines in January, until he just says, done, we're no longer selling machines, and this from I'm making a date up. Say if he says July 1st, 2026, from this point on, I'll maintain the machines that are out there for the remaining part of the year. At that point, he'll probably stop producing replacement parts. What I'm hoping when that time comes, if there's still a demand for it, and he sees that there's a demand out there just on maintenance parts, replacement modules, boards, and pieces, one of 2 things I'm hoping he'll do. Either one, he'll see it might be worth his time to keep those going just as a replacement serviceable items, or 2, license another manufacturer to sell those components. I can see he did not want to sell his company and trust somebody else with the name and reputation of Rolly. But when it comes to serviceable parts, it would be advantageous for him to license someone else to manufacture and sell those. Then his hands are out of it, and he's just getting a little bit of a licensing fee. That's what I'm hoping he'll do. But Peter, as of right now, I don't know. And it says, I got my replacement module today and I was just wondering about future reference. Yeah, I bought 3 modules, Peter. I bought 3 because I knew that my module was failing. But I was hoping it was going to go long enough for my 3 modules to get here. But it didn't. And when it went, and I knew there's nothing else I could do with this machine, I realized then that there is going to come a day that will be the end of my Rolly. There will be a day that it's like, okay, I can't get parts for it anymore. An absolutely sad day. That's because right now there's not another laser on the market that I have seen that I would say, I want this machine. I want this machine. I'm going to buy this machine. It's going to replace this machine. There's not a laser that I've seen that I want to replace this. By the time that day comes, hopefully there will be a machine out there that's going to be of equal or better quality that I can step into. But technology is constantly evolving. It's constantly changing and improving. And so there will be a machine eventually that comes out that will be hopefully as good as this, hopefully. And Terry, I went with 320 watts. I had the 10 and then the 1020 and then the 1030. And when I had the 1030, I never used the 30. I did not like the spot size of the 30, so I stayed with the 1020. I got 3 1020s coming. All right, so I'm going to wrap this up and go to dinner, take Dad, get him something in his belly, and get back here for the next live stream at 9 p.m. So it's now 5:15. So in a little less than 4 hours, we'll be back doing lasers, but we'll be doing art libraries, how to use AI. Specifically, the AI I'm going to be using will be the AI in Canva. If you have Canva, great. You can learn these prompts exactly. If not, these prompts will probably work with a lot of the AIs. If not, you can just tweak them ever so slightly and figure out how to make, because the key is using the right prompts, using the right verbiage to get what you want. And like I said, this will be something that I am. This was not my planned content for tonight. This has been prompted because accusations again. You know, I wished I could be done. I wished I could be done. Just go away. But accusations again of me stealing, you know. So anyway, let's go eat dinner, and I'll see you guys in a few hours. All right. Peter says I'll be in bed. Well, you have a good night's sleep, and you can catch the replay because there'll be a lot of good content in there, especially if you like using, or you think you might like using AI to create your art libraries. All right, we'll see y'all in a bit. Y'all have a good evening. The rest of y'all have a good night, and I'll see some of you in a few minutes or a couple hours.